It's a victory Monday. You know what that means. It's 3 claps time again. Is Dexter Lawrence the best defensive tackle in the game? Is Tyrone Tracy better than another 26? Is this offense better without Malik Neighbors? I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons. It is Victory Monday. I absolutely love coming into a week off of a win, but I more specifically love coming into a week off of a win where everything looked like a winning organization, a winning team, a legitimate team on the rise should look. I love it. Absolutely love it. I've told you guys before, I don't give out moral victories. I'm not here for the game balls when the team doesn't win. But when they do, I like to celebrate it. And so today is the day that we give shout outs, we give props to the people who should be shouted out, who should be given props, because what the Giants did on Sunday was show versus a good team, right? Versus a good team. They showed that they have an ability to play with anybody if they play the way they're constructed to play. That's all we've ever asked. That's all I've seen a lot of people ever ask, is to play the way that you are constructed to play. So, without further ado, shout out to Dexter Lawrence. 3 sacks, and he was just a disruptor in the middle of that defense all night or all day, all afternoon, whatever you want to say. He was able to exact his will in the middle. And this is what this defensive line was constructed to do. I'll explain. Their thought process, their ideology is that they want to get pressure with 4, right? It's interesting because they were playing the Seahawks, who for years made their hay because they were able to get pressure with 4 without having to send people on blitzes. They were able to get pressure. And so it was interesting that the Giants beat the Seattle Seahawks playing in a manner very similar to the way the Seattle Seahawks played back in their heyday when they had the Legion of Boom. What I noticed is Dexter Lawrence in a lot of one-on-one situations. Why? I'm glad you asked. Because the 2 defensive ends, the 2 edge rushers, are so explosive. I know a lot of you people keep acting like Kayvon Thibodeau's not explosive. I just don't know what football you guys are watching. But the 2 edge rushers were so explosive off the edge that they felt like they had to send and pay more attention to the edges. That allowed Dexter Lawrence to eat up the middle. Here's also what you saw. When Dexter Lawrence was pressing up the middle, the quarterback could not escape to the edges. You know why? Because Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, welcome to the season, Brian Burns, like legitimately welcome to the season, Brian Burns, are out there. So Dexter Lawrence was able to eat, and eat he did. And this is the thing. Not every defensive tackle is able to take advantage of those edge rushers on the outside. There are many teams that have edge rushers on the outside, and their defensive tackles are not getting 3, count them, 3 sacks in a game. So, shout out to Dexter Lawrence. Let's give him a 3 claps and a hand. I like it. My second guy who I just talked about a little bit. Brian Burns, welcome to the season. 2 tackles, a sack, 2 passes defensed. 2 passes defensed. You know what that tells me? That tells me that he is being productive in the run game. That tells me he's being productive as a pass rusher. And when he does not get to the quarterback, he's still affecting the pass because he's getting in the passing lanes. That is what you pay $100 million for. That is what you want when you trade assets and you pay somebody big money. That is how you get it done. Now, again, I talked about Kayvon Thibodeaux. I'm not giving him a game ball today because guess what? Can't give game balls to everybody. But Brian Burns, if this is the Brian Burns that the New York Giants are going to get game in, game out, then watch out. Because he will make Dexter Lawrence's life easier. He'll make Kayvon Thibodeaux's life easier. And he'll make whoever they put as that 4th defensive lineman his life easier. That is an explosive. That is an electric. That is a defensive end, an edge rusher that you got to worry about all the time. All the time. Like, shout out to him because it's been spotty, right? It's been spotty. And like you had to and you had to figure that he would eventually get it right. Like he would eventually get it where he needed to, but he hadn't. He had not. It hasn't happened. So I know we all think that he was going to do what he needed to do, but we still needed to see it. And so it was good to see it. It wasn't just good to see it. It was great to see it. It was fantastic to see it, right? This is what we need out of Brian Burns every single game. And we got it. And we got it, right? It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Giants or you're somebody covering the Giants. You can admit when somebody is playing their butt off. And he was playing his butt off. Let's give 3 claps and a hand to my guy. DJ Davidson. Remember I said he's going to make everybody else's life easier? Well, DJ Davidson was a beneficiary of that. He's a beneficiary of them having to worry about all of these other explosive elements. I don't care how you get to the quarterback. I just care that you got there. And DJ Davidson's a guy who last year, right? Who last year sparked. And people thought, okay, he's coming. Well, guess what? He just announced, hey, coach, put me out there more. I need to be out there more. Why? Because I'll help you get to the quarterback. I'll help you get to the quarterback. That's what you like to see. That's what you love to see. 4 defensive linemen affecting the ball. There were, 7 sacks in the game? Lawrence had 3. Davidson had 2. Burns had 1. And then Kayvon Thibodeaux had a half a sack. Although there was another sack that I think they gave to Dexter Lawrence, which could have totally been his, or it may have been he shared one with Dexter Lawrence and then Dexter Lawrence shared one with someone else. I can't remember how it works, but up until this time, the predominance of the sacks have come from the 2nd and 3rd level players. This game versus that offense, that passing offense, that's one of the best in the NFL. The sacks came from the front 4, which allowed them to play the coverage that they want to play behind. And that's why the Seattle Seahawks didn't have that much success, because you didn't have to have safeties and linebackers blitzing all the time to try to get pressure on the quarterback. The front 4 did it. They got to bring that pressure back to the East Coast. They got to bring that pressure back to New Jersey. They got to bring that pressure back and take it to Philly and take it to Dallas and welcome in Washington, because they're going to be a problem, right? This fight is not over. It doesn't get easier for the Giants. But you got to like that the defensive line, including DJ Davidson, was able to get to the quarterback. 3 claps and a half to my boy DJ Davidson. Hey. Now, Tyler Nubin, I've been on because I feel like he's a rookie. But this game, he played probably his best game. And this type of game is the type of game that will make you forget about Xavier McKinney. It'll make you forget about letting go of Julian Love, right? This type of game leads you to believe, okay, all right, he can be the guy. Now, here's my problem, because I'm not getting off of it. I'm not giving Joe Shane, you know what? Let me save that for another day. But just know I've got some issues. I'm gonna keep it love today. But Tyler Nubin was out there doing his big one. 9 tackles, 7 solo tackles. That means he's seeking the ball, finding the ball, getting to the ball. He's had some games where he's had some tackle numbers, right? He's had some games where he's been able to get to the quarterback. So it's not like it's something new, but it's great to see him put this type of game together versus a top or an upper echelon NFL program, right? The Seattle Seahawks, they're a good team. The Seattle Seahawks are a team that knows how to win games, that plays well together, cohesive, a good quarterback, right? A good quarterback. And they were able to stop Geno Smith from once again being able to say, hey, you guys messed up. You should have kept me, right? He kept Geno Smith. They kept Geno Smith from being able to say that. And Tyler Nubin was a big part of that. 3 claps and a high to my boy Tyler Nubin. Hi. Let's move it on over to the offensive side, because I think that here is where we got to give props. I came on here and I bashed the offensive line. I said, man, this offensive line is built to pass protect. They're not built to run block. And that is why you see them not being able to run the ball well. You see them not being able to run the ball well because they're not great at run blocking. They're here to pass block. Now, I'm not saying that I was wrong, because they're clearly better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking. But you got to like the fact that they are putting emphasis on trying to get the run game going, right? You have to love the fact that they're doing everything possible. You got to love the fact that they're doing everything possible to get the run game where it needs to be. That offensive line took pride in run blocking. Andrew Thomas is one of the best run blocking tackles in the game, right? But the rest of those dudes, they weren't performing well. And Thomas was suffering because of it. But the cohesiveness, and shout out to Carmen Brasillo once again, because you know he got back in the lab, right? He got back in the lab. Those times where the Patriots would struggle with running, they get back in the lab, figure things out, and be able to have a better showing the next time out. And that's what they did. That's great pedigree from your offensive line coach. It's great pedigree from your offensive line coach. Shout out to Carmen Brasillo and the offensive line. 3 claps and a half for them boys. Hey. Who was the beneficiary of this great run blocking? One rookie, Tyrone Tracy Jr. I heard some people saying that Tyrone Tracy was better than Saquon Barkley. Tyrone Tracy had a fantastic game. And I don't want to like bemoan that. So I'm just going to say shout out to Tyrone Tracy Jr. for what he was able to do. I will say he looked better than a number 26. Wasn't Saquon Barkley, but he looked better than a 26. Ayo, New York Giants, you got a problem. You got a problem. Because 18 for 129, when you didn't break you didn't break off no super long runs, that's good. That's really good. Tyrone Tracy had 18 carries for 129 yards. His longest run was 27 yards. Right? So that means that on his 17 carries for 102 yards, he averaged 6 yards a carry. Sorry, did I say that was good? That is great. That is Tony the Tiger. Great. And if he's going to do that, right, if he's just going to do something like around that, hell, if he just does 4.8 yards a carry, right, he's going to be one of the best averages in the league. It's hard to run the ball. But Tyrone Tracy had a heck of a game. He took advantage of holes being open. He was decisive. He was quick. He was agile. I was surprised they didn't get him the ball more as a receiver out of the backfield. They gave Eric Gray 4 targets. He got 3 catches for 50 yards. So they almost kind of split him, which is interesting because, yeah, Gray can catch the ball out of the backfield, but Gray is the more seasoned running back, and Tyrone Tracy is more of the seasoned receiver, and yet it was Tracy doing the running back work. They got a problem because I need to see more of him. I don't need for him to go back to no platoon system, right? If the platoon is 18 carries Tyrone Tracy, 11 carries Daniel Jones, 1 for Wan'Dale and 4 for Eric Gray, then when Singletary comes back, it should be 18 carries for Tyrone Tracy. It should be 8 carries for Singletary, 3 to 4 for Daniel Jones, maybe 5, a couple for Gray, 1 or 2 for Wan'Dale, right? Like, that's what it should be. I don't need to go back to seeing Tyrone Tracy get, you know what I'm saying, minimal amounts of carries because Singletary back. You got to be ready to pivot when somebody shows you they're ready to be the dude right now. That's not just some bum Seattle defense. That's a good Seattle defense he ran on. If he ran on that defense, he should be able to run on the Eagles. He should be able to run on Washington. He should be able to run on Dallas. If he was able to run versus that team, he should be able to run against any divisional opponent. Don't make him go back to 5 carries or non-existent carries. 18, 22. I like the number. 3 claps and a half for my boy Tyrone Tracy Jr. Hey, I know that you know there's one person and one person only in Giants universe who's been talking about the importance of Darius Slayton. One person and one person only. His name is Coach Gene Clemons. And y'all are doing victory laps for people who don't need victory laps. I've been telling y'all since before they took Malik Neighbors that Darius Slayton has wide receiver 1 potential. That Darius Slayton just has to be treated like a wide receiver 1, and he would have had wide receiver 1 production. I told you that if you put Darius Slayton on another team, that he would produce like a wide receiver 1. I told you that low-key, Darius Slayton has always produced like a wide receiver 1 because he's never been targeted like a wide receiver 1. Guess what happened? Guess what happened on Sunday? Darius Slayton got targeted like a wide receiver number 1, and he rolled up 8 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. All of a sudden, the deep shots were back. Got him once for a 41-yarder. Got another big gainer. Why? Why was it able to work with him and not work with Neighbors or Wan'Dale Robinson? It's because he has the best rapport with Daniel Jones. He has the longest rapport with Daniel Jones. Now, I heard some of you out there thinking, oh, well, or saying, oh, well, this doesn't mean that they should change anything when Malik Neighbors comes back. Yes, it does. It means that you shouldn't be feeding Malik Neighbors the ball 18 targets. You shouldn't give him 18 and 19 targets. I've always said that Slayton should be the 2, right? And that you got to continue to get Slayton involved. Remember last week where he had 3 catches, but had like half the yards that the other receivers had when they had over double the amount of catches than he had? Imagine if you ingratiated him back into the system. Well, guess what? Now he's back. And when Malik Neighbors returns, Malik Neighbors is your number 1. He's special. But you don't just all of a sudden go, okay, now we're going to go back to dink and dunk style with Neighbors and Wan'Dale. You use Neighbors, use Wan'Dale, and you allow Slayton to operate with about 7 to 8 targets. Right? You allow Wan'Dale to operate with about 7 to 8 targets. You get Malik Neighbors 7 to 8, 8 to 10 targets. Right? The targets that you're throwing away to Theo Johnson, you could be given to the guys who are going to really do some damage with it. Right? But I told you guys that Darius Slayton was a dude and that all he needed was a chance. I also admitted that what we've seen through 4 weeks told us that Wan'Dale Robinson was the wide receiver 2. I didn't say I agreed that he should be the wide receiver 2. I just admitted that is what life is right now. But you're not going to tell me you're not impressed with 8 catches for 122 yards. You're not going to tell me you're not impressed with 8 catches for 122 yards if you're telling me that Malik Neighbors had 12 catches for 115 yards and all of y'all were out there beanbag slobbing. Wan'Dale Robinson had 11 catches for 71 yards, and y'all kept talking about how good these dudes are. That Dallas Cowboys defense is a sieve. They should have put up numbers. Right? They should have put up numbers. Malik Neighbors had 8 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Everybody claimed that he was the number 1 guy. Wan'Dale Robinson had 7 catches for 61 yards. Boom. Okay, cool. Nothing for my boy Darius Slayton in that Cleveland game. The game that got everybody saying, oh, Malik Neighbors is that dude. He's going to be special. That was his 10 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. Darius Slayton that day had 3 catches for 33 yards. Right? They lost to Washington because a lot of dinking and dunking. And now the dinking and dunking is back. I'm gonna tell y'all in a minute what I really, really loved. But I really like seeing Darius Slayton because he's held everybody down. He's been the good soldier. All of y'all are trying to trade him. All of y'all are saying that y'all want Jalen Hyatt out there. And yet this dude keeps showing up and doing his job. 3 claps in the hat of my boy, Darius Slayton. Hey! And finally, I saved them for last because when you have a phenomenal game for you, it needs to be spoken about. We all know that I don't believe that Daniel Jones is the long-term solution. But I said last week that he was playing it the way that they needed him to play, except one thing. He just wasn't connecting on those deep shots. And I said last week, I said, if they just incorporate more of Darius Slayton over the top, it'll open up the stuff underneath. And guess what happened? They did. Here's what I loved about Daniel Jones' performance. There was last week with Malik Neighbors, he did the half roll to the right and throw back to the left, and he waited. It took too long, and he lobbed it up, and the defender was able to come over and make a play. But this week, he did the half roll to the right and launched that thing quickly and to the side where his guy could pull away. And guess what Darius Slayton did? He pulled away and caught it. That's improvement. That's improvement. Now, look, I'm not saying that these numbers are phenomenal numbers, right? 23 for 34, 257 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's not elite level. They're not elite level numbers, but you know where they are? They're winning numbers. Because if your defense is going to play well and you're going to be able to run the ball well, right? If the defense is going to play well and you're going to be able to run the ball well, and your special teams are going to score a touchdown, then you only need to score 14 points. Right? You only need to score 14 points. You only need to score 14 points via touchdown, excuse me. But you've got your 14 points. You've got your field goals. Right? You got your field goals. Like 3 field goals again from Greg Joseph makes me ask the question. Are we saying goodbye to Graham Gano when he's back? Greg Joseph's been great. I don't know. But Daniel Jones played well, did all of this without Malik Neighbors, whom people were saying is the only reason Daniel Jones is doing good is because he's throwing the ball a bunch of Malik Neighbors. So what this showed me, this shows me that he doesn't need a Malik Neighbors. He just needs to deliver the football the way he can when he's not frazzled, right? And now when you plug Malik Neighbors back into that offense with that quarterback playing at that with that level of confidence, you could keep this rolling. But it can't just turn back into throw the ball to Malik Neighbors all the time. I think somebody said, well, if Malik Neighbors is your number one and he's open, you throw it to him. Yeah, but if he's open on a hitch route and somebody's just going to tackle him immediately, hit him in the back, wouldn't it be better to throw it to that guy running the over route further down the field who nobody's paying attention to because they're paying all the attention to Malik Neighbors? Nobody's saying, hey, don't throw the ball to Malik Neighbors. We're saying if you throw the ball to other people, then Malik Neighbors is going to be more wide open. That's it. That means that cornerback might be further off when you throw the hitch route to Malik. Now he can turn around and show you what he can do after the catch, which he hasn't been able to do because he's getting hit as soon as he touches the football. So I'm excited to see how this offense works with Malik Neighbors back in it, because if Daniel Jones is going to deliver the football the way he delivered it versus Seattle, the Giants have a chance to win some games. They have a chance to win a lot of games. Man, look, I need 3 of the hardest claps and a hang for Daniel Jones. You know what? That wasn't hard enough. Hey, it was a fantastic game. I loved to watch it. I wanted to go live at halftime, but I just wasn't in a position because I was traveling back from Baltimore, where I was for the Morgan State homecoming game that I called on ESPN Plus. Shout out to everybody over there at ESPN Plus for continuing to allow me to work in that capacity, doing color commentary for the MEAC games. It's been very enjoyable for the games that I've been able to do, and I look forward to doing more. Man, it's exciting times, right? It has to be exciting times if you're a Giants fan, because you've got a Bengals team coming in next week who offensively they're good, but defensively they're not good. Can the Giants win a shootout with the Bengals? We'll talk more about that as the week goes on, but I really just want to give, and you know what? I have to give another game ball out. One last game ball. Game ball goes to the head coach, Brian Daboll. I asked for more dynamic play calling. I got more dynamic play calling. Now, I asked for more touchdowns instead of settling for field goals. I got 2 more touchdowns instead of 5 field goals. Think about the difference, right? Last week versus Dallas, 5 field goals. You lose. This week versus Seattle, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns, you win. Ta-da! It doesn't have to be 5 touchdowns. It'd be great if it was. It'd be great. It'd be fantastic. But it doesn't have to be 5 touchdowns, but you got to find a way to put the ball in the end zone, and so the challenge is still there. Shout out to Brian Daboll for finding a way to get the ball in the end zone, for finding a way to bring the deep shots back. 3 claps and a half for Brian Daboll. Hang! Gotta love it. Victory Mondays are always the best. We now have had 2 of them. And I think that if this team offensively, defensively, and special teams wise, right? Before I get out of here, before I even forget, I gotta give 3 claps and a hang to Isaiah Simmons. Hang! I don't know why Isaiah Simmons is not on the field more. We'll talk about it more. He's a dynamic player. I don't know what they're doing with him, but I love the fact that he was a stalwart on the special teams and that he made the play of the game. I mean, shout out to Bryce Ford, Wheaton for picking it up and running and scoring. But yeah, of course. The guy jumped over the offensive line, didn't touch him because that would be a penalty. Didn't touch him, and then got the block. That's 3 more claps. 3 more claps and a half for your boy, Isaiah Simmons. Hang! I tell you, it's going to be an interesting week. I've got issues, though. I've got issues, and we'll get into them before we put all of this on week 4 to bed and kind of turn our attention, week 5 to bed and turn our attention to week 6. But until then, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.